Hi students, welcome to lesson number 20 on national policies for scheduled tribes. Now the introduction. The tribals are thought to be India's first inhabitants. They were forced to forests, hills and other unsuitable locations as a result of a series of invasions by foreign groups and relentless pressure from more powerful neighboring communities. These settlements acquired their own culture, traditions, languages and administrative system, and as a result of their isolation. While some of them are permanent cultivators, many others rely on shifting cultivation, hunting and food collection. Most tribal inhabited areas were declared excluded or partially excluded areas under the Government of India Act of 1935. Such territories were called scheduled areas after independence and were included in Schedule 5 and 6. The essential characteristics for recognition as a scheduled tribe are primitive traits, geographical isolation, distinctive culture, shyness of contact with outsiders and economic backwardness. As according to Census 2011, the number of scheduled tribes in India is 10 crores 42 lakhs 81,034. It is the 8.6% of the total population of India. While the scheduled tribes are spread throughout the country, their main concentration is in central India in the states of Gujarat, Maharashtra, Rajasthan, Madhya Pradesh, Andhra Pradesh, Bihar and Orissa, where more than 82% of the country's tribal population is concentrated. Another pocket of tribal concentration is the northeastern region, where 12% of the country's tribal population live. The remaining tribal communities are concentrated in the areas bordering the Nilgiri hills in the south and the Himalayan regions to the north and west. The tribal communities are made up of people from various ethnic, religious and linguistic backgrounds, while the Jarawas and Shampas in the Andaman and Nicobar Islands are close to achieving 100% literacy. The Jarawas and the Shampas in Mizoram are still surviving in the wild. The strong cultural traditions, kinship, remoteness of their habitats, lack of infrastructure services and low level of technical growth are all common qualities among tribal population. The objective of this lesson is that the students will be able to understand the various policies which are meant for the development of tribes in the country. And now we will try to understand what are the various national policies for scheduled tribes. The Government of India is proposing the establishment of a national policy for scheduled tribes for the first time since the country's independence. The strategy aims to integrate scheduled tribes into civilization through a multi-pronged approach that promotes their overall development while preserving their particular culture. The scheduled tribes account for 8.08% of India's population with 67.8 million people. Except for states and union territories like Chandigarh, Delhi, Haryana, Pondicherry and Punjab, there are 698 scheduled tribes across the country. The state of Orissa has the most scheduled tribes with 68%. Scheduled tribes are those that the President of India has designated as such under Article 342 of the Constitution. In 1950, the first notification was sent by the President, which considers the characteristics like the tribes, primitive traits, distinctive culture, shyness with the public at large, geographical isolation and social and economic backwardness before notifying them as scheduled tribes. 75 of the 698 scheduled tribes are identified as primitive tribal groups, considering they are more backward than scheduled tribes. They continue to live in a pre-agricultural stage of economy and have very low literacy rates. Their population are stagnant or even declining. The Constitution through several articles has provided for the socio-economic development and empowerment of scheduled tribes. But there has been no national policy which could have helped translate the constitutional provisions into a reality. 5 principles spelled out in 1952, known as Nehruvian Panchashil, have been guiding the administration of tribal affairs. They are: first one, that tribals should be allowed to develop according to their own genius. Second, tribal rights in land and forest should be respected. Third, tribal teams should be trained to undertake administration and development without too many outsiders being inducted. Fourth, tribal development should be undertaken without disturbing tribal social and cultural institutions. Fifth, the index of tribal development should be the quality of their life and not the money spent. And realizing that the Nehruvian Panchashil was long on generalities and short on specifics, the Government of India formed a Ministry of Tribal Affairs for the first time in October 1999 to accelerate tribal development. The Ministry of Tribal Affairs is now coming out with the draft national policy on tribals. Based on the feedback from tribal leaders, the concerned states, individuals, organizations in the public and the private sectors and NGOs, the ministry will finalize the policy. The national policy recognizes that a majority of scheduled tribes continue to live below the poverty line, have poor literacy rates, suffer from malnutrition and disease, and are vulnerable to displacement. It also acknowledges that scheduled tribes in general are repositories of indigenous knowledge and wisdom in certain aspects. The national policy aims at addressing each of these problems in a concrete way. It also lists out measures to be taken to preserve and promote tribal cultural heritage. Now we will understand the various national policies which are meant for scheduled tribes in various sectors, and the first one is formal education. Formal education is essential for a person's overall development. Despite various programs since independence to promote formal education, the literacy rate among scheduled tribes is only 29.6% compared to 52.21% for the country as a whole according to 1991 census. In comparison to the national female literacy rate of 39.29%, the female literacy rate is only 18.19%. Alienation from civilization, a lack of suitable infrastructure such as school, hostels and teachers, extreme poverty and disinterest for irrelevant content have all prevented tribals from receiving formal education. To achieve the objective of reaching the benefit of education to tribals, the national policy ensures that the tribals are included in the national programs of Sarva Shiksha Abhiyan run by the Ministry of Human Resource Development. Schools and hostels are open in areas where no such facility exists. At least one model residential school is located in each tribal concentration area. Education is linked with provision of supplementary nutrition. Special incentives like financial assistance, pocket allowances, free distribution of textbooks and school uniforms are provided. Teaching is imparted in tribals mother tongue at least up to the primary level. Educated tribal youth are given employment as teachers wherever possible, and this will obviate the need to employ teachers belonging to far off places who find commuting is as difficult as staying in a village with no basic amenities. Pedagogy is made relevant so that tribals do not find it as alienation. Curriculum and co-curriculum include aspects of meta-skill upgradation of tribal children. Curricula for meta-skill upgradation are to include aspects of tribal games as archery, sports and identification of plants of medicinal values, crafts, art and culture, folk dance and folk songs, folk painting, etc. Emphasis is also laid on vocational and professional education. Polytechnic are set up for studies in subjects like forestry, horticulture, dairying, veterinary sciences and polytechnics. Another sector is about the traditional wisdom. Living in the midst of hills, forests, coastal location, deserts, For generations, tribals have accumulated invaluable and extensive knowledge in battling environmental adversities and sustaining sustainable lifestyles. Water collection techniques, indigenously constructed irrigation canals, construction of cane bridges in hills, adaptation to desert life, use of forest spices such as plants and bushes for medicinal purposes, meteorological evaluation and so on, all exhibit their expertise. Such priceless knowledge must be adequately documented and conserved, lest it be lost as a result of modernity and the passage of time. The national policy seeks to first preserve and promote such traditional knowledge and wisdom and document it. Second, establish a center to train tribal youth in areas of traditional wisdom. Third, disseminate such thorough models and exhibits at appropriate places. Fourth, transfer such knowledge to non-tribal areas. Another policy is related to health. Despite the fact that tribal people live in close proximity to nature, the majority of them require health care due to malnutrition, a lack of adequate drinking water, poor hygienic and environmental sanitation, and most importantly, poverty. Their health is also affected by a lack of understanding and apathy in using accessible health treatments. Disease have spread to tribal communities as a result of the introduction of roadways, industrialization and communication infrastructure. In tribal groups, endemic diseases such as malaria, deficiency disorders and venereal diseases such as AIDS are frequent. However, hunger and a lack of adequate drinking water are well known serious health risks. Calcium, vitamin A, vitamin C, riboflavin and animal protein are all deficient in tribal diets. Malnutrition and undernutrition are widespread among primitive tribal groups who rely heavily on food that they either acquire or cultivate using primitive techniques. Tribal women's poor nutritional state has a direct impact on their reproductive performance as well as the survival, growth, development of their infants. Tribal people who are self-reliant and self-sufficient have evolved their own medicinal system based on herbs and other natural products collected and processed locally through the years. They also have their own disease, diagnostic and treatment system. Taboos, spiritual forces and faith healing are all things they believe in. Depending on their culture, level of contact with other cultures and degree of adaptability, tribals' health state and willingness to obtain and use health services varies greatly. Against this background, the national policy seeks to promote the modern healthcare system and also a synthesis of Indian system of medicines like Ayurveda and Siddha with the tribal system. The national policy seeks to first strengthen the allopathy system of medicine in tribal areas with the extension of the 3-tier system of village health workers, auxiliary nurse, midwife and primary health centers. Second, expand the number of hospitals in tune with tribal population. Validate identified tribal remedies used in different tribal areas. Third, encourage, document and patent tribal traditional medicines. Fourth, promote cultivation of medicinal plants, related value addition strategies through imparting training to youth. Fifth, encourage qualified doctors from tribal community to serve tribal areas. Sixth, promote the formation of a strong force of tribal village health guides through regular training cum orientation courses. Seventh, formulate area specific strategies to improve access to and utilization of health services. Eighth, strengthen research into disease affecting tribals and initiate action programs. 9th, eradicate endemic disease on a war footing. Another policy related to is displacement and resettlement. People who have been displaced from their conventional homes have experienced a great deal of trauma. Compulsory land acquisition for dams and highways, quarrying and mining activities, industry site and forest reservation for national parks and environmental reasons drives tribal people to leave their traditional homes and land which is their primary source of income. The national policy therefore mandates that the following guidelines to be followed when tribals are resettled. That is, the first one, when displacement becomes inevitable, each scheduled tribe family having land in their earlier settlement shall be given land against land. That is, a minimum of 2 hectares of cultivable land is considered necessary and viable for a family, that which consists of comprising man, his wife and unmarried children. Second, tribal families having fishing rights in their original habitat shall be granted fishing rights in the new reservoir or at any other alternative places. Reservation benefits enjoyed at the original settlement shall be continued at the resettlement area. Additional financial assistance equivalent to nearly 1.5 years minimum agriculture wages for loss of customary rights and legal rights to forest produce shall be given. Tribals are to be resettled close to their natural habitat by treating all the people so displaced as one group to let them retain their ethnic, linguistic and socio-cultural identity and the network of kinship and mutual obligation. Free land is to be provided for social and religious congregations. If resettlement is possible only away from the district taluka, then substantively higher benefits in monetary terms shall be given. When tribal families are resettled, all basic minimum amenities shall be provided at the new sites. That include road and passage, electricity, drainage and sanitation, safe drinking water, educational and healthcare facilities, fair price shops, a community hall and a panchayat office. Another policy is related to forest villages. Tribals' age-old symbiotic relationship with forest is well known. Recognizing this fact, even the National Forest Policy committed itself to the close association of tribals with the protection, preservation and development of forests and envisaged their customary rights in forest. It is, however, a matter of serious concern that about 5,000 forest villages do not have minimum basic living condition and face a constant threat of eviction. The national policy suggests that any forceful displacement should be avoided. Human beings move on their own to places with better opportunities. The forest villages may be converted into revenue villages or forest villages may be developed on par with revenue villages to enable the forest villages enjoy at least the minimum amenities and services that are available in revenue villages. The national policy therefore mandates that first one, educational and medical facilities, electricity and communication, approach roads and such other basic amenities be provided to forest villages. Public distribution system and grain banks be established to prevent food problems and advanced agricultural and animal husbandry technologies be introduced so that forest villages raise their production, incomes and economic standards. Next, bank and other institutional loans be made available for entrepreneur with viable projects of income generation. Tribals be given opportunities to partake in joint forest management and encouraged to form cooperatives and corporations for major forest related operations. Integrated area development program be taken up in and around forest areas. Tribal rights in protection, regeneration and collection of minor forest produce. MFP be recognized and institutional arrangements made for marketing such produce. Efforts should be made to eliminate exploitation by middlemen in cooperatives like tribal development cooperative corporations. Large size multi-purpose societies and forest development cooperatives by introducing minimum support price for non-agriculture produce on the lines of minimum support price for agriculture produce. Another policy is related to shifting cultivation. Shifting agriculture has long been popular in hilly terrains where tribals have possessed land rights either individually or collectively. Crops do not meet their food requirements for more than 4 months of the year due to low yields. As in non-tribal areas, tribals engaging in shifting agriculture do not appear to have any emotional attachment to the land as an asset or property that requires care and attention. The replenishing of soil fertility is not a priority in moving cultivated sites. Tribes believe in collecting crops without exerting any effort or making any investment. Land is just left to nature to recoup on their own. To handle the problem of shifting cultivation, the national policy focus on first one, land tenure system will be rationalized, giving tribal rights to land ownership so that they will invest their energy and resources in checking soil erosion and fertility, which have hitherto been neglected as land belonged to no one but was subjected to exploitation by everyone. Second, agricultural scientists will be asked to focus on shifting cultivation and evolve suitable technologies to improve production. Third, the shifting cultivators will be ensured sufficient food supply through the public distribution system and grain banks, and tribals will be encouraged to raise cash crops and horticultural plantations. Next point, training and extension programs will be organized to sensitize tribals about alternative economic strategies so that they can come out of shifting cultivation. Another policy is related to land alienation. Scheduled tribes are frequently exploited by non-tribals to give up their most valuable resource, that is land, despite the fact that states have passed laws to curb the tendency. Displaced tribals have yet to reclaim their territories. Another type of land alienation occurs when government supports development projects such as hydroelectricity power plants, mining and manufacturing. Tribals are rendered landless as a result of these development initiatives which do not directly benefit them. The national policy for tribals seeks to tackle tribal land alienation by stipulating that first one, the tribals have access to village land records. Second, land records be displayed at the panchayat. Third, oral evidence be considered in the absence of records in the disposal of tribals' land disputes. Fourth, states prohibits transfer of lands from tribals to non-tribals. Fifth, tribals and their representatives will be associated with land service. Another policy is related to tribal languages. Tribal languages are treated as unscheduled languages since they are spoken by tribals. Many tribal languages are on the verge of extinction as a result of the changing educational landscape. The disappearance of a language may have a negative impact on their tribal culture, particularly folklore. Tribal languages are to be preserved and documented as part of the national policy. Primary school education in the mother tongue should be encouraged. Tribal language books and other publication will be also encouraged. Another policy is related to primitive tribal groups, that is PTGs. Scheduled tribes noted for their dwindling or static population, low literacy, pre-agriculture technologies predominantly belonging to the hunting and gathering stage and extreme backwardness are known as primitive tribal groups. For the first time in 1979, they were recognized as distinct support category, and 75 primitive tribal groups found in 15 states and union territories. The PTG population of 25 lakh people accounts for about 3.6% of the tribal population and 0.3% of the total population of the country. Developmental activities have not benefited PTGs. They are constantly threatened with being evicted from their homes and lands. They suffer from food insecurity as well as variety of ailments such as sickle cell, anemia and malaria. The national policy emphasizes to tackle the problems of PTGs. First one, to boost PTGs social image, their being stigmatized as primitive shall be halted. Second, their efforts shall be made to bring them on par with other scheduled tribes in a definite time frame. Developmental efforts should be tribe specific and suit the local environment. Third, effective primitive and curative health system shall be introduced to the PTG's traditional methods of prevention and cure shall be examined and validated. Fourth, to combat the low level of literacy among PTGs area and need specific education coupled with skill upgradation shall be given priority. Sixth, formal schooling shall be strengthened by taking advantage of Sarva Shiksha Abhiyan. Trained tribal youth shall be inducted as teachers. Teaching shall be in tribal's mother tongue or dialect, and they will be considering PTG's poverty. School going children shall be provided incentives, and the emphasis shall be laid on vocational education and training. And also PTGs shall enjoy the right to land. Any form of land alienation shall be prevented and landless PTGs be given priority in land assignment. Public distribution system shall be introduced to ensure regular food supply. Grain banks shall be established to ensure food availability during crisis. PTG's participation in managing forests shall be ensured to meet their economic needs and nourish their emotional attachment to forest. Another policy is related to scheduled tribes and scheduled areas. Although the constitution is clear about the concept and strategy adopted for defining scheduled areas and tribal areas in terms of 5th and 6th schedules under articles as 244(1) and 244(2), there is some confusion among those concerned with implementing them. The national policy envisages the following steps. First one, the regulation making powers of state governors to maintain good governance, peace and harmony in tribal areas, which will be further strengthened. It will be ensured that Tribal Advisory Council meet regularly and focus on speedy development works and prohibition of land transfers. Money lending menace shall be curbed through implementation of money lending laws. Second, tribal advisory councils will be established in states which have scheduled areas and even in states where a substantial number of tribal people live, although scheduled areas have not been declared. Third, the autonomous district, regional or councils in northeastern states will be further strengthened. The councils are elected bodies having powers of legislation and execution and administration of justice. Another policy is related to administration. In terms of performance and development metrics, the existing administrative machinery in states and districts, which includes integrated tribal development agencies and integrated tribal development projects has not been up to par. The national policy seeks to revitalize the administration by first one, skill upgradation cum orientation program shall be conducted for tribal administration officials. Second, infrastructure development shall be given priority to so that officials will function from their places of posting. Third, only officials who have adequate knowledge, experience and a sense of appreciation for tribal problems shall be posted for tribal administration. Fourth, as the schemes meant for improving tribals' condition take time, a tenure that is commensurate with their implementation shall be fixed for officials. To summarize, the goals of the tribal policy documents are to improve the quality of life of tribal people, to ensure that the benefits of development reach them and that all tribals develop equally so that there is no hierarchy among them, to maintain tribal cultures in the face of massive changes so that development and culture are balanced, and finally to integrate the tribe into the whole, that is the mainstream society. A policy should be comprehensive. It is a comprehensive document that covers all elements of people's life. A policy should give a roadmap for development and specify the guidelines for work regardless of the social sector it affects. Although the government lays forth the values of society, it is up to the other institutions and their staff to put them into practice. They must learn to be sensitive to tribes and the job that must be done among them. The policy will be nothing more than a piece of paper, an academic and literary exercise and an end in itself until it is put into action.